Hey guys, this is Miss Arlequin, and in this video we're going to be looking at a sample essay from the 2015 sixth grade New York State Common Core exam. It is an essay that went with the passage Goo Fighters. Alright, so the question that students had to answer was, sometimes big ideas come from small observations. How does John Bartlett's invention show a big idea coming from a small observation? What steps did John Bartlett take to develop his idea into a product? Use details from the essay to support your response. All right, so the first thing that students have to do is they have to take the actual prompt and figure out what exactly is being asked of them. Now, on the ELA state test, they kind of make that easy for you because they do then break down the prompt into bullet points. And you're really just going to have to then take the bullet points and make each of them a separate paragraph. You know that you're always going to start with an intro. So that's going to be your first paragraph. But then after that, your next paragraph should be based on the bullet points. So bullet point 1 would really be paragraph number 2. Bullet point 3 would be paragraph number 3. And then usually the last bullet point is just telling you to include text evidence or details. All right, so you have to explain how John Bartlett's invention shows that big ideas can come from small observations. So you really have to answer the question, how? How did a big idea come from a small observation? So that really should be the thesis statement that we see in the intro paragraph. So this student writes, innovations can come from anywhere. John Bartlett's gel is an example of this. He noticed that a wet baby diaper didn't burn in a garbage fire. His gel saves lives. So the student didn't exactly restate the question, but they did answer it. They're telling you that the observation of a wet baby diaper, that's the observation, that came up with the idea, the big idea of the gel. That's the big idea. So this is the specific answer to the general question about a big idea and a small observation. And the student also started with a compelling opening. This is a general intro to the specific idea. Right? The specific ideas are inventing a gel that can prevent fires and coming up with that idea by just observing something random that happens. All right, now we get to the body paragraph. So now what we have to do is we have to prove what the small observation was. We have to prove with specific details the big invention. John Bartlett was cleaning a garbage fire. When he looked at the debris, he noticed that one thing didn't burn in the fire. It was a wet disposable baby diaper. Bartlett decided to research. He found out that the main ingredient in diapers is an extremely absorbent polymer called sodium polycrylate. Bartlett also learned that sodium polycrylate can absorb up to 800 times its own weight in water. The baby wetting the diaper left enough moisture to survive the fire. Bartlett thought that this might be able to protect homes from fire. He tested sodium polycrylate by combining it with water and different chemicals. Working with his father in Bruce Hill, he created Barricade, or diaper goo. The new product could last 6 days depending on weather and could protect from fires for 30 hours. The product washes away with water and is biodegradable. Also, it is non-toxic. This gel saved 200 homes in Florida and a paper mill in Canada. This observation has saved many lives, many homes and lives. John Bartlett has made a life-saving invention from an observation. Innovation comes from all different places. John Bartlett has saved many. All right, so personally, I don't think that this is the best example of an essay. However, it does fulfill all the requirements according to the New York State 4-point rubric. So we're going to go through it together. We already looked at the introduction. One of the things that your response has to do, it has to clearly introduce a topic in a manner that follows logically from the task and purpose. So he does that when he makes the statement about John Bartlett's gel. Now, next it has to have insightful analysis. So you have to have some kind of deep thought or inference. So the student does that when he says Bartlett thought that this might be able to protect homes from fire. All right, so that's the interpretation going on there. Now, next, the topic is developed with relevant, well-chosen details. Now, this is really a case of a student only using indirect quotes, which many students fear that that doesn't count as text evidence, but an indirect quote, which is also known as paraphrasing details from the text, that does count as evidence. And that entire body paragraph is full of details from the text. So there's a lot of text evidence here. Now, the response also has to use a variety of relevant evidence. It can't just be one or two details, and it can't be the same text evidence used in multiple paragraphs. So the student definitely has a variety of evidence. They included a lot of details about the observation, the invention of the gel, and how it was invented and what it can do. Next, the response has clear organization with skillful use of appropriate and varied transitions. So there are very clear transitions from sentences. It doesn't have to be that you have transition words. You don't have to have, for example, this shows, you should, but that's not the only way to transition from one idea to another. If you can start a sentence by connecting it or building on from what the previous sentence is, it's not abrupt. Like you end one sentence and then all of a sudden the next sentence you're changing topics without any kind of flow or transition, that's bad. But when the student uses a flow, there's a smooth transition like he found out. Bartlett also learned, working with his father. Those are smooth transitions. The response establishes and maintains a formal style using grade-appropriate, stylistically sophisticated language and domain-specific vocabulary. So yeah, extremely absorbent polymer is an example of domain-specific vocabulary. It came from the text. Depending on the weather, that is a sophisticated word phrasing. And biodegradable, again, that's a domain-specific vocabulary word. Definitely something you would expect sixth graders to be able to use. Finally, the conclusion follows clearly from the topic and information presented. So we're not even talking about a fancy conclusion. If there was more of text-to-word connections or inferences, it could get it even stronger. But you can see where the student is wrapping up their ideas in this essay. And finally, there's grade appropriate command of conventions with few errors. All right, so that's what makes this response a 4. Now, in class, we would definitely want to have an essay that weaves together indirect and direct quotes. You wouldn't just want to use indirect quotes. We want to have a more compelling introduction. We would definitely want to try to use even more sophisticated vocabulary and transition words. So in class, I would probably consider this a low 4, maybe even a 3. But if you look at all of the breakdown from the state rubric, it is leaning more towards a 4 than a 3.